The silence in the CO mansion was deafening. 8-year-old Hannah stood in the marble foyer, her small hand gripping the navy fabric of Amara's uniform, while her father, one of Los Angeles's most feared Korean Mafia bosses, stared at them both in complete shock. "I choose Amara," the girl had just announced, her voice clear and unwavering. Kang Jun-seo blinked hard. Of all the trained bodyguards, of all the loyal staff, of all the people in his empire built to protect his daughter, she had chosen the maid, the black woman who had worked in their house for barely 3 months. Amara Lewis nearly dropped the silver tray in her hands, her dark eyes wide with disbelief. Me? Hannah, sweetheart, are you sure?" The child pressed her face against Amara's side, arms wrapping tighter around her waist. "You're the only one who makes me happy." It was the first time anyone had heard Hannah use the word happy in years. Kang Jun's jaw tightened, something painful and unfamiliar twisting in his chest. This woman, this stranger, had accomplished what his money, power, and endless resources never could. And now she was about to become part of something he never saw coming. Welcome to Korean Mafia Lovers. Hello everyone. Please tell us where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. Your support is essential for us to continue creating these emotional stories. 3 months earlier, Amara Lewis had walked through the towering gates of the CO estate with nothing but a worn duffel bag and desperate hope. She needed this job, needed it more than air, more than pride, more than the voice in her head telling her she didn't belong in a world of marble and money. The mansion was a fortress of glass and steel, perched high in the Hollywood Hills like a crown jewel overlooking Los Angeles. Every surface gleamed, every corner held shadows, and every person who worked there moved with the careful precision of someone who understood that one mistake could cost them everything. Amara understood that feeling intimately. At 28, she had learned to navigate spaces where she wasn't wanted. Growing up in South Central LA, working her way through community college while caring for her sick grandmother, taking whatever jobs would pay the bills, she had developed an armor of quiet dignity that served her well. She worked hard, kept her head down, and never expected kindness from the world. But she gave it anyway. Yuri Cho, the head housekeeper, had been blunt during the interview. "Mr. CO values discretion above all else. You see nothing, hear nothing, speak to no one outside this house about what happens here. The pay is excellent, but the expectations are absolute." Amara had nodded, understanding the unspoken truth. Kang Jun-seo wasn't just wealthy. He was dangerous, the kind of man whose business dealings happened in shadows, whose enemies disappeared, whose very name made people lower their voices. She had taken the job anyway. Her grandmother's medical bills wouldn't pay themselves. The first time she saw Hannah Seo, the girl was sitting alone in a playroom the size of most people's apartments, surrounded by toys that looked like they'd never been touched. 8 years old, with long black hair and her father's sharp features, she was drawing in a sketchbook with the focused intensity of someone much older. "Hello," Amara had said softly, not wanting to startle her. Hannah looked up with eyes that held too much wariness for a child. "Are you the new maid?" "I am. My name is Amara. What's yours?" "Hannah." The girl studied her carefully. "How long will you stay?" The question caught Amara off guard. I'm planning to stay as long as I can." "Why do you ask?" Hannah shrugged, returning to her drawing. "They always leave." Something in those 3 words broke Amara's heart. She crouched down to Hannah's level, ignoring the expensive rug beneath her knees. "What are you drawing?" For the first time, Hannah's expression softened slightly. "A bird. But it doesn't look right." Amara studied the sketch. It was actually quite good for an 8-year-old. "It's beautiful. You know what might help? If you imagine the bird is about to fly somewhere wonderful, where would it go?" Hannah considered this seriously. "Maybe. To a place where it has friends." "That sounds perfect. Birds are happiest when they're not alone." It was a simple conversation, but it planted a seed. Over the following weeks, Amara found herself gravitating toward Hannah whenever her duties allowed. She would braid the girl's hair in the mornings, teaching her songs her own grandmother had sung. She would listen patiently when Hannah talked about her drawings, her dreams, her fears. Most importantly, she treated Hannah like a child, not a precious object to be protected, not a symbol of her father's legacy, but simply a little girl who needed connection. The other staff noticed. Daniel Kim, Kang Jun's chief bodyguard, watched with approval as Hana began to smile more. Yuri Cho, initially skeptical of the new maid, found herself impressed by Amara's gentle competence. But it was Kang Jun himself who noticed most of all. He would catch glimpses of them together, Amara patiently helping Hana with a puzzle, or sitting beside her during thunderstorms when the girl was afraid. Each time, something twisted in his chest, something that felt dangerously like longing. Kang Jun Seo had built his empire on control. Every relationship was transactional. Every emotion was a weakness to be exploited. Love was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not in his world, not with his enemies, not when caring about someone made them a target. But watching Amara with his daughter challenged everything he thought he knew about strength. The morning he announced the Disney trip, it had been an impulse, a rare attempt to connect with Hana before she grew up entirely in the shadow of his choices. He expected her to choose her tutor, maybe her Aunt Heijin, possibly even Daniel. He never expected her to choose the maid. "I choose Amara." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Around the room, his lieutenants exchanged glances. Aunt Heijin raised an eyebrow. Even Yuri looked surprised, but it was Amara's reaction that stopped his heart. The way her eyes widened, the way her hands trembled slightly as she set down her tray, the way she looked at Hana with such pure protective love that it took his breath away. "Hana, sweetheart, are you sure?" Amara asked gently. Hana ran to her, wrapping small arms around Amara's waist with fierce determination. "You're the only one who makes me happy." The honesty in his daughter's voice hit Kang Jun like a physical blow. In 8 years of trying to give Hana everything money could buy, he had failed to give her the one thing she needed most, genuine connection. And this woman, this stranger who had been in their house for 3 months, had given it to her effortlessly. "Fine," he managed, his voice rougher than intended. "Amara comes." As the room slowly emptied, people returning to their duties with whispered conversations, Kang Jun found himself alone with Amara and Hana. The little girl was still clinging to Amara, chattering excitedly about Mickey Mouse and princesses. Amara caught his eye over Hana's head. "Sir, I don't have a passport, and I'm not sure it's appropriate for—" "It's handled," he interrupted. "Whatever you need, it's handled." She blinked, clearly overwhelmed. "I don't understand why you're doing this." Kang Jun looked at his daughter, finally calm and animated in a way he hadn't seen in years, and felt something shift inside him, something dangerous and terrifying and absolutely necessary. "Because," he said quietly, "she chose you. And maybe it's time I learned why." The words hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to examine. But as Hana pulled Amara toward the window to point out birds in the garden, the same birds she'd been drawing for months, Kang Jun realized that this trip to Disney World was going to change everything. Whether he was ready or not. Disney World was a universe away from the controlled environment of the SEO estate. The moment they stepped off the private jet in Orlando, Kang Jun felt exposed in a way that made his security instincts scream. Too many people, too many variables, too many ways for things to go wrong. But Hana was practically vibrating with excitement, her small hand clutched firmly in Amara's, and for the first time in years his daughter's happiness mattered more than his paranoia. "Look, Daddy!" Hana pointed at the Disney transport bus decorated with cartoon characters. "It's like a rainbow." Kang Jun glanced at the garish vehicle and suppressed a grimace. He had arranged for private transportation, of course, armored cars, vetted drivers, secure routes, but Amara had gently suggested that part of the Disney experience was riding the magical bus with other families. "She needs to feel normal," Amara had said during the flight, her voice low enough that Hana couldn't hear. "Just for a few days. Normal." The word was foreign to Kang Jun's vocabulary. Nothing about his life had been normal since he was Hana's age, since his own father had been gunned down in a restaurant in Koreatown, since he'd learned that survival meant becoming harder than your enemies. But watching Hana's face light up as they boarded the bus with other excited families, he began to understand what Amara meant. The Grand Floridian Resort was the kind of luxury Kang Jun was accustomed to: marble lobbies, crystal chandeliers, staff who moved with practiced discretion. He had booked the presidential suite naturally, with connecting rooms for security and Amara. "This is like a palace," Hana gasped, running to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Magic Kingdom. Amara followed more slowly, her eyes wide as she took in the opulent surroundings. Kang Jun watched her reaction carefully, noting the way she touched surfaces gently, as if afraid she might break something. It reminded him that for all her quiet confidence with Hana, she was still a woman from south-central LA who had probably never stayed anywhere more luxurious than a Motel 6. "Your room is through there," he said, gesturing toward one of the connecting doors. Amara shook her head. "I should stay with Hana, in case she needs anything during the night. There's a daybed in her room," he replied, "but you have your own space if you want privacy." She looked at him with those steady dark eyes that seemed to see too much. "Thank you. You didn't have to—" "Yes, I did." The words came out more forcefully than he intended. "Hana chose you. That means you're under my protection now." Something flickered across Amara's face. Surprise, maybe even a hint of fear. She was smart enough to understand what being under a man like Kang Jun Seo's protection meant. It wasn't just about luxury accommodations and private jets. It was about entering a world where loyalty was everything and betrayal was unforgivable. "I would never hurt her," Amara said quietly. "I know." And he did know, with a certainty that surprised him. "If I thought otherwise, you wouldn't be here." That first day in the Magic Kingdom tested every assumption Kang Jun had about parenting, about control, about what his daughter needed. He had arranged VIP tours, private character meet and greets, reserved viewing areas for parades, everything money could buy to ensure Hana's comfort and safety. But Hana wanted none of it. She wanted to wait in line like other children. She wanted to ride the small, gentle rides that other kids her age enjoyed. She wanted to eat Mickey-shaped pretzels from a cart instead of dining in exclusive restaurants. And through it all, she wanted Amara's hand in hers. "Can we go on the teacups?" Hana asked, pointing to the spinning ride that made Kang Jun's security team exchange nervous glances. "That looks crowded, sweetheart," Daniel Kim said diplomatically. "Maybe we could—" "I think the teacups look wonderful," Amara interrupted gently. "Should we get in line?" Kang Jun watched as Amara guided Hana toward the queue, chatting easily with other families, helping Hana make friends with a little boy who was also waiting with his parents. It was so natural, so effortless, that it took him a moment to realize what he was witnessing. His daughter was being normal. Not the carefully protected heir to a criminal empire, not the traumatized child who flinched at loud noises and trusted no one. Just a little girl excited about spinning teacups and making friends. "She's good with her," Daniel observed, moving to stand beside Kang Jun. "Yes." Kang Jun's voice was rougher than he intended. "She is. The kid's been different since Amara arrived, happier." Kang Jun nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He had noticed the change in Hana, the way she laughed more, the way she sought out physical affection, the way she had started drawing pictures of families instead of solitary birds. He had attributed it to maturity, to time healing old wounds. He had been wrong. It was Amara. That evening, as they watched the fireworks from Main Street, USA, Hana climbed into Amara's lap without hesitation. The gesture was so natural, so trusting, that it hit Kang Jun like a physical blow. His daughter had never climbed into his lap, not once in 8 years. "The fireworks are like stars falling down," Hana whispered to Amara, her voice full of wonder. "They are," Amara agreed, her arms wrapped protectively around the little girl. "What would you wish for if you caught one?" Hana considered this seriously. "I would wish for us to always be together, all three of us." The innocent words hung in the air between the adults like a challenge. Amara's eyes found Kang Jun's over Hana's head, and he saw his own confusion reflected there. This wasn't supposed to happen. This trip was supposed to be a simple gesture, a way to bond with his daughter before returning to their carefully controlled life. It wasn't supposed to make him question everything he thought he knew about family. "That's a beautiful wish," Amara said softly, pressing a kiss to the top of Hana's head. Later that night, after Hana had fallen asleep clutching a stuffed Mickey Mouse, Kang Jun found himself standing on the balcony of their suite, staring out at the lights of the Magic Kingdom. The whole place was an illusion, he knew, carefully constructed fantasy designed to make people believe in happy endings. But for the first time in his adult life, he found himself wanting to believe too. "She's asleep," Amara said quietly, stepping onto the balcony beside him. "Thank you," he said, "for today, for all of it." Amara was quiet for a long moment. "She's an amazing little girl. You should be proud." "I am." He paused, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. "But I'm also terrified." She looked at him with surprise. "Of what?" Kangjun turned to face her fully, and for a moment, the careful mask he wore slipped entirely. "Of how much she needs you, of how much I—" He stopped himself before he could finish the thought, but the words hung between them anyway. "Of how much I need you too." The third day at Disney World started like a fairy tale and ended like a nightmare. Hannah had woken up early, bouncing on Amara's daybed with the kind of pure excitement that only children could muster. "Today we're going to see the princesses, real princesses." Amara had smiled, braiding Hannah's hair into an elaborate crown style while humming softly. Kangjun watched from the doorway, struck once again by how natural they looked together, like a real family getting ready for a special day. The Bibbidi-Bobbidi boutique was every little girl's dream come true. Hannah sat perfectly still as stylists transformed her into a princess, her eyes wide with wonder as they painted her nails and dusted her face with glitter. "You look beautiful, princess," Amara whispered, and Hannah beamed. Kangjun found himself taking pictures, something he never did, something that felt dangerously sentimental. But the joy on his daughter's face was worth capturing, worth remembering. The trouble started at the princess character breakfast. They were sitting at their table, Hannah chattering excitedly about meeting Belle, when Kangjun's phone buzzed with a text that made his blood run cold. "We know where you are, we know who you're with, beautiful family you have there." The message was from an unknown number, but Kangjun recognized the threat immediately. Sung-Ho Park, his rival from Los Angeles, had found them. Somehow, despite all his security measures, despite the careful planning, Park had tracked them to Disney World. Kangjun's eyes swept the restaurant, noting exits, counting potential threats, calculating how quickly he could get Hannah and Amara to safety. His hand moved instinctively toward his concealed weapon before he remembered where he was, surrounded by families, children, innocence. "Daddy?" Hannah's voice cut through his panic. "Are you okay?" He forced himself to smile to appear calm. "I'm fine, princess. Just checking something." But Amara was watching him with those perceptive eyes, and he saw the moment she recognized that something was wrong. She didn't ask questions, smart woman, but her hand moved protectively to Hannah's shoulder. The next hour was torture. Kangjun smiled and took pictures while his mind raced through contingency plans. Daniel and the security team were already mobilizing, but they were in the middle of the most crowded place on Earth, surrounded by thousands of potential witnesses and innocent bystanders. When Belle approached their table to greet Hannah, Kangjun's phone buzzed again. Such a pretty little girl. It would be a shame if something happened to her. This time the message included a photo, Hannah hugging Belle, taken from somewhere in the restaurant. Park's people were here, watching, waiting. Kangjun stood abruptly. "We need to go, now." "But Daddy—" Hannah started to protest. "Now, Hannah." His voice was sharper than he intended, and he saw his daughter flinch. Amara stood smoothly, her hand finding Hannah's. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go back to the hotel and you can show me all your princess pictures." As they made their way through the crowded restaurant, Kangjun's trained eyes caught movement. Men in casual clothes who moved with too much purpose, who spoke into concealed microphones, who watched his family with predatory interest. They made it to the hotel, but barely. Daniel met them in the lobby with grim news. 3 vehicles spotted outside the resort. Park's people, definitely. They're not trying to hide anymore. In the safety of their suite, with security posted outside, Kangjun finally allowed himself to breathe. But the relief was short-lived. "What's happening?" Amara asked quietly. Hannah was in the bathroom, changing out of her princess dress, giving them a moment to speak freely. "Someone found us," Kangjun said. "Someone who wants to hurt me through my family." Amara's face went pale. "Hannah, she's safe. I won't let anything happen to her." He paused, studying Amara's face. "Or to you." "Me?" Amara shook her head. "I'm just the maid. I'm not—" "You're not just anything." Kang Jun interrupted fiercely. "You're the person my daughter loves most in the world. That makes you a target." The weight of those words settled between them like a stone. Amara sank into a chair, her hands shaking slightly. "I never wanted this," she whispered. "I just wanted to take care of her." "I know." Kang Jun knelt beside her chair, his voice gentle. "And that's exactly why you're in danger, because you love her, because she loves you, because you've become family." Amara looked at him with tears in her eyes. "What do we do?" Before Kang Jun could answer, Hana emerged from the bathroom in her regular clothes, her face still glowing with princess magic. "Can we go swimming now?" The innocence in her voice broke something inside Kang Jun. His daughter had no idea that men with guns were circling their hotel, that her happiness had painted a target on everyone she loved. "Not today, princess," he said gently. "We need to stay inside for a while." Hana's face fell. "But you promised we could swim." "I know, and I'm sorry. Sometimes grown-ups have to break promises to keep the people they love safe." It was then that Hana seemed to sense the tension in the room. Her eyes moved between her father and Amara, taking in their worried expressions, their careful postures. "Are we in trouble?" she asked quietly. Amara opened her arms, and Hana went to her immediately. "No trouble, sweetheart. Your daddy just needs to take care of some business." "Business like at home with the scary men?" The question hit Kang Jun like a punch. His 8-year-old daughter knew about the scary men in his life. She had been watching, learning, understanding far more than he had given her credit for. "Yes," he said honestly, "like at home." Hana was quiet for a long moment, then looked up at Amara. "Will you stay with me?" "Always," Amara promised without hesitation. And in that moment, watching the woman he was falling in love with promise to protect his daughter, Kang Jun realized that everything had changed. This wasn't just about keeping Hana safe anymore. It was about protecting the family they had accidentally become, even if it meant going to war to do it. His phone buzzed one more time. Midnight. The parking garage. "Come alone, or the maid dies first." Kang Jun looked at Amara holding his daughter, both of them trusting him to keep them safe, and felt something cold and deadly settle in his chest. Sung-Ho Park had made a critical error. He had threatened the wrong family. The hotel suite felt like a beautiful prison. Outside, Disney World continued its magical performance. Fireworks painted the sky, children laughed on rides, families made memories that would last forever. Inside, Kang Jun paced like a caged animal while his security team prepared for war. "Absolutely not," Daniel said for the third time. "You're not meeting Park alone. It's suicide." "It's the only way to keep them safe," Kang Jun replied, checking his concealed weapons. "He wants me, not them." "You don't know that. The moment you're dead, what's to stop him from—" "Enough." Kang Jun's voice cut through the room like a blade. "This is not a discussion." Across the suite, Amara sat on the couch with Hana, reading a story about brave princesses and happy endings. But Kang Jun could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her voice trembled slightly on certain words. She knew what was happening, even if Hana didn't. At 11:30, Kang Jun knelt beside his daughter. She looked so small in her Disney pajamas, clutching the stuffed Mickey Mouse she'd insisted on buying. "I have to go take care of something, princess," he said softly. Hana looked up at him with those two wise eyes. "The scary men. Yes, but I'll be back soon, I promise." "You said promises get broken sometimes." The words hit him harder than any bullet ever had. "Not this one. This promise I'll keep." Hana studied his face for a long moment, then threw her arms around his neck. "I love you, Daddy." It was the first time she had said those words in years. Kang Jun held her tight, memorizing the feeling of her small body against his chest, the scent of her shampoo, the absolute trust in her voice. "I love you too, princess, more than all the stars in the sky." When he stood to leave, Amara was there, her dark eyes filled with fear and determination. "Bring yourself back," she whispered. "She needs you. We both—" She stopped herself, but the unfinished words hung between them. "We both need you." Kang Jun reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek. "Take care of her. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you." Amara's voice was fierce. "You're going to come back, and we're going to finish this vacation, and Hana's going to meet every princess in the park. Do you understand me?" For a moment, Kang Jun forgot how to breathe. This woman, this incredible, brave, beautiful woman, was ordering him to survive. Not for his empire, not for his reputation, but for his daughter, for her, for them. "Yes, ma'am," he said softly and meant it. The parking garage was a concrete tomb, all shadows and echoes. Kang Jun arrived 5 minutes early, his senses hyper-alert, cataloguing every potential threat. 3 levels underground, minimal lighting, too many blind spots. If Park wanted him dead, this was the perfect place for it. At exactly midnight, Sung-ho Park emerged from behind a pillar, flanked by 4 armed men. He was younger than Kang Jun, hungrier, with the kind of desperate ambition that made men dangerous. "Kang Jun Seo," Park said, his voice echoing in the empty space. "The great king, brought low by a little girl and her maid. What do you want, Sung-ho?" "What I've always wanted. Your territory, your contacts, your empire." Park smiled, cold and predatory. "But I'll settle for your life." "Then take it. Leave my family out of this." Park laughed. "Family? You mean the black woman who cleans your toilets? Or did you forget that your real family is already dead?" The reference to his murdered father made Kang Jun's hand twitch toward his gun, but he forced himself to remain still. "They have nothing to do with our business." "They have everything to do with it. You see, I've been watching you, Kang Jun, for months, and I've noticed something interesting." Park began to circle him slowly, like a shark scenting blood. "The great Kang Jun Seo, who never showed weakness, who never cared about anything except power, has fallen in love." The words hit their mark. Kang Jun's carefully controlled expression flickered for just a moment, but it was enough. "There it is," Park said triumphantly. "The truth you won't even admit to yourself. You love her, the maid, and that little girl thinks of her as a mother. How touching. Get to the point. The point is leverage. Kill me and my men kill them. Let me walk away. And I'll let you keep your precious family for now." It was a trap, and they both knew it. Park would never let them live, not when their existence gave him power over Kang Jun. But he was offering time, and time was what Kang Jun needed. "What are your terms? You retire completely. Turn over your operations to me and disappear. Take your little family and vanish somewhere I'll never find you." Kang Jun considered this. It wasn't impossible. He had enough money hidden away to live comfortably anywhere in the world. But it would mean abandoning everything he had built, everything his father had died for. "And if I refuse?" Park's smile turned vicious. "Then I start with the maid, slowly. While you and the little girl watch." The threat hung in the air like poison. Kang Jun felt something cold and deadly settle in his chest. Not fear, but calculation. Park had made a critical error. He had threatened the wrong people. "You know what your problem is, Sung-ho," Kang Jun said conversationally. "Enlighten me. You think love makes me weak, but you're wrong." Kang Jun's voice dropped to a whisper. "It makes me absolutely fucking ruthless." The words were still hanging in the air when the lights went out. Daniel and his team moved like ghosts in the darkness, taking out Park's men with silent efficiency. Kang Jun had never intended to face Park alone. He had just needed to get him talking long enough for his people to get into position. When the emergency lighting flickered on, Park was on his knees, blood streaming from a head wound, his men unconscious or dead around him. "You think this ends it?" Park snarled. "I have people everywhere. They'll never be safe." Kang Jun knelt beside him, his voice calm and certain. "You're right. They'll never be safe as long as you're alive." The single gunshot echoed through the parking garage like thunder. 30 minutes later, Kang Jun walked back into the hotel suite to find Amara pacing frantically while Hana slept on the couch. "Thank God," Amara breathed, running to him. "I was so scared." He caught her in his arms, holding her tight against his chest. "It's over. We're safe. All of us. Promise?" "Promise." But even as he said the words, Kang Jun knew that nothing would ever be the same. Tonight had changed everything. Tonight, he had chosen love over empire, family over power. And for the first time in his life, it felt like the right choice. The morning after the confrontation, Disney World looked different to Kang Jun. The colors seemed brighter, the laughter louder, the magic more real. It was as if surviving the night had stripped away a filter he hadn't realized he'd been seeing through. Hana woke up chattering about princess breakfast and character meet and greets, blissfully unaware that her father had killed a man to keep her safe. Watching her bounce around the suite in her pajamas, Kang-jun felt the weight of his choices settle into something that felt surprisingly like peace. "Can we really do everything today?" Hana asked, climbing onto his lap with her stuffed Mickey Mouse. "All the rides? All the princesses?" "Everything," Kang-jun promised, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Whatever you want, princess." Amara emerged from the bathroom, her natural curls loose around her shoulders, wearing a simple sundress that made her look younger, softer. When their eyes met across the room, something passed between them, an understanding that everything had changed, that they had crossed a line they could never uncross. "Good morning," she said softly. "Good morning." His voice was rougher than he intended, weighted with everything he wanted to say but couldn't, not with Hana listening. The day that followed was pure magic. They rode every ride Hana wanted to try, met every character she dreamed of meeting, ate Mickey-shaped everything until they were all slightly sick from sugar and joy. Kang-jun found himself laughing, actually laughing, as Hana dragged them from attraction to attraction with boundless energy. But it was the quiet moments that undid him completely. Watching Amara braid flowers into Hana's hair while they waited for the parade. Seeing his daughter fall asleep against Amara's shoulder during the boat ride through It's a Small World. The way Amara's hand found his when Hana wasn't looking, her fingers intertwining with his like they belonged there. That evening, they sat on the balcony of their suite watching the fireworks paint the sky in brilliant colors. Hana was curled in Amara's lap, half asleep but fighting to stay awake for every last moment of magic. "This was the best day ever," Hana mumbled against Amara's shoulder. "Can we stay here forever?" Amara's eyes found Kang-jun's over the little girl's head. "Wouldn't that be nice?" "We could," Kang-jun said quietly, "if that's what you wanted." Both Amara and Hana looked at him with surprise. "Really?" Hana asked, suddenly wide awake. "Really? We could live anywhere you want, princess. Do anything that makes you happy." It was true. With Park dead and his operations dissolved, Kang-jun was free in a way he hadn't been since childhood, free to choose a different life, a better life, for all of them. "I want to live wherever Amara is," Hana said simply. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Amara's breath caught, her dark eyes wide with something that looked like hope and terror in equal measure. "Hana, sweetheart," she started. "I want that too," Kang-jun interrupted, his voice steady and certain. "I want us to be a family. A real family." Amara stared at him. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying." He moved closer, his hand covering hers where it rested on Hana's back. "I'm saying I love you. Both of you. I'm saying I want to wake up every morning and see you braiding her hair. I want to teach her to drive while you worry from the passenger seat. I want to walk her down the aisle someday and know that she had a mother who loved her unconditionally." Tears were streaming down Amara's face now. "Kang-jun, I'm saying I want to grow old with you. I want to spoil our grandchildren and argue about what to watch on TV and fall asleep holding your hand every night for the rest of my life." Hana sat up, looking between them with the serious expression she got when she was trying to understand something important. "Are you asking Amara to marry us?" The innocent question made both adults laugh through their tears. "Yes, princess," Kang-jun said, his eyes never leaving Amara's face. "I'm asking Amara to marry us." "And what if she says no?" Hana asked. Kang-jun felt his heart stop for a moment, waiting for Amara's answer. "Then I would be the biggest fool in the world," Amara whispered, "because I love you both more than I ever thought possible." Hana cheered, throwing her arms around both of them. "We're going to be a real family." As fireworks exploded overhead and his daughter laughed with pure joy, Kang-jun held the two most important people in his world and felt something he had never experienced before: complete happiness. "There's just one thing," Amara said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. "Anything. I want a small wedding. Just us, and maybe a few close friends. Nothing fancy or intimidating." Kang-jun smiled. "Whatever you want. Though I should warn you, Hana's going to want to be the flower girl. And the maid of honor," Hana added seriously, "and I want to help pick the dress." "It's a deal," Amara laughed. Later that night, after Hana had finally fallen asleep clutching her Mickey Mouse and dreaming of princesses, Kang Jun and Amara sat together on the balcony, her head on his shoulder, his arms wrapped around her. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "Your world, your life, it's dangerous, complicated." "My old life was dangerous," he corrected. "This is my new life, our life, and I'll spend every day making sure it's safe and simple and full of love." "What about your business, your empire?" "Gone, dissolved. I meant what I said. We can live anywhere, be anything. I have enough money saved that we'll never have to worry about anything except making Hana happy." Amara was quiet for a long moment. "I never imagined this, any of this. 3 months ago I was just trying to pay my grandmother's medical bills." "How is she?" "Better. The surgery was successful. She's going to be fine." Amara smiled. "She's going to love you, and she's going to spoil Hana absolutely rotten. I can't wait to meet her." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the last of the fireworks fade from the sky. Tomorrow they would fly back to Los Angeles, but everything would be different. They would pack up the mansion, sell it, start fresh somewhere new. Maybe a house with a big backyard where Hana could play. Maybe near the ocean, where they could walk on the beach and build sandcastles and watch sunsets together. "Kang Jun?" Amara's voice was soft in the darkness. "Yes? Thank you. For what?" "For choosing us. For choosing love." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, the warmth of her skin. "Thank you," he said, "for teaching me what love really means." In the distance, the magic kingdom settled into quiet slumber, its lights twinkling like stars. And in their suite, high above it all, a Mafia boss, a maid, and a little girl who had brought them together slept peacefully, dreaming of happily ever after. For the first time in any of their lives, those dreams felt possible. Years later, in a house by the ocean in San Diego, Amara Seo stood in the kitchen making breakfast while her husband read the morning paper, and their daughter, now 16, complained about her curfew. "But Mom, everyone else gets to stay out until midnight. Everyone else doesn't have a father who used to be in the Mafia," Kang Jun said mildly, not looking up from his paper. "Former Mafia," Hana corrected. "You're a boring businessman now." "The most boring," he agreed with a smile. Amara laughed, flipping pancakes while watching her family banter. The years had been kind to them. Kang Jun had built a legitimate business empire. Hana had grown into a confident, artistic teenager. And Amara had finished her degree and opened a small art therapy practice for children. They had kept their promise to return to Disney World every year, watching Hana grow from a shy 8-year-old into a young woman who still insisted on riding the teacups just for old time's sake. "Remember when you chose me for that first Disney trip?" Amara asked, wrapping her arms around Hana from behind. Hana leaned into her mother's embrace. "Best decision I ever made." "Mine too," Kang Jun said softly, and meant it with his whole heart. "Thank you for staying until the end. Korean Mafia Lovers has many more incredible stories. Don't forget to subscribe because your support helps us continue creating these emotional journeys."